Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial in which we're going to be talking about Vray advanced material and how you basically approach creating materials inside Vray. Now this tutorial is basically suited for the guys who want to get started into Vray and want to know how they basically approach creating materials inside Vray. Basically it's a layer-based material system, so it's different from what we as Cinema 4D users used to, but I think it is a very powerful material when you want to create something really specific. So to get to Vray materials, you basically go to your create shader, Vray bridge, and here you have a list of Vray materials. Now the most used Vray material is this Vray advanced material. Basically in maybe 95% you just use this material and it does the job. But sometimes when you want to go ahead and create some specific materials, you might use other materials that we hopefully have the time and talk about them in the upcoming weeks. Now, in this week's tutorial, we're going to be talking about the Vray advanced material. So let's go ahead and create this material. And simply double click on this and you kind of see a bit familiar environment here. Some stuff are different, especially this whole bunch of options that we talk a bit about them when we are about to finish the tutorial. Now let's go ahead and talk about a very basic concept that you should be familiar with in order to get the result that you are after. Now it's a layer-based material system. You can see you got the Specular layer 1 to 5 and you got Diffuse layer 1, 2. And Luminosity layer, you got this Refraction layer. Now how basically these layers works, let's go ahead and talk about that. Now we have Diffuse layer 1 and before going through different things, you can see you have the colors, you can define a texture, you have this Diffuse layer transparency. Let me go ahead and for example choose this kind of purplish color for this layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and enable layer number 2. And let's go to layer 2 and select this yellow color. Now you can see, let me just make this thing a bit bigger so you can see the whole thing. Now you can see we basically can't see any effect of this yellow color in our material. That's because it's a layer-based system. So this layer now basically override this other layer. Now in order to get any effect from this layer, you have to make your first layer transparent or sort of blend it to your other layer, exactly what you do inside Photoshop. Now maybe a bit different tools, but that's basically the same concept. Now what you can do in order to control these layers is here. You have this diffuse layer transparency. Now the amount is 0. It does mean that basically nothing below this layer is visible, and in order to see any effect you are going to need to change this amount. Let me go ahead, for example, go to about 50%. Now as you can see we have 50% of this purple color and 50% of this yellow color, and when they combine we get this color. Now if I go to 100%, basically it's 100% transparent and you can't see this this purple color at all. Now you can, instead of using this amount, use a basic texture to combine them. Now for example, if I go ahead and use a simple, let's go ahead and use a checkerboard. Now you can see where the shader is brighter, you can see first layer color, and where it gets darker you can see this yellow color, which is from our second layer. Now you can do whatever you want. For example, if I go and change this guy to Fresnel, you can see how it affects our texture. And let's go ahead and talk about now this very important concept. Really you need to kind of understand it, kind of go through it a few times to make sure you understand this concept, because otherwise you're not going to be able to create anything specific inside this system here. And the same concept goes to specular layers, which are the same as reflection layer inside Cinema 4D And let's go ahead and talk about different parameters right now. Now, in diffuse layer, you have this texture map. You have this color where you simply can define the color that you are going to use for your material. You can use a texture if you want. Let me go ahead, for example, and use this texture, and you can see the effect of this. Let me actually create a quick preview here. So there we go. Okay, great. Now, I'm just trying to make sure you see everything here. Okay. Now, you have different blending modes, you know, exactly like Photoshop or what we are used to inside Cinema 4D window. In Cinema 4D, I think there are 4, and you have much more different options inside here. And you have this strength. Basically, you define how much of this texture you want to affect your diffuse. So if it's 1, you get nothing from your color. If it's 0, all the effect is from the color, and you get nothing from your texture. And you can simply go ahead and use, for example, if I use multiply, you can just see the dark pixel of your texture on the purple color that you have defined here. Now, diffuse layer transparency that we talked about, and you have roughness. That, let me just clear this texture. So now the roughness is very simple. The higher the number, the rougher the surface gets, and vice versa. And also you can define a texture to define the amount of roughness. If I go ahead and again use this checkerboard, you can see where the texture is white, it gets more rough, and where it is black, it gets more soft, basically. Now, that's about roughness. Now, V-Ray dirt is kind of, I think, complicated, and we hope, I hope that we're going to have time and talk about it in this tutorial, or we can specify a specific tutorial for this concept and about V-Ray dirt. Basically, it's really actually powerful, and we hope, you know, we're going to talk about this. Anyways, now this is diffuse layer, and the second most important parameter is specular. Let's go ahead and turn on the specular here, and as you can see very quickly, you can see the effect of specular here on your image. Now, another thing before we basically continue here is, if you right click on your image, you can change it to different previews here. When I work, basically I change it to Object GI for a lot of different reasons, because you can see how it's a very, very nice preview. But because I'm here downloading and having a few programs open, so it kind of makes a bit harder for me to record, especially when we go ahead and talk about the reflection glassiness and how glassiness and anisotropy effect and different parameters. I think it's going to be a bit better if we just go ahead and stick with this default preview. But if you want to go there right now, change this to Object GI, and it's going to give you a much more easier time defining and understanding what your material looks like. Now, as you can see, as soon as we check this specular layer number 1, you get this reflection here. Now, the first thing is this type here. You got the Fang, Plain, Ward. Now, basically, the Fang is more suited to plasticky sort of surfaces, and Plain and Ward are more suited to more metal. So it's you know, it's actually very, very important option here. If you are going to create something that's more closer to plastics, use the Fang. Otherwise, use the Plain and Ward. Now, here you have the specular color. The brighter the color, the more reflective the surface gets. Now, you can see it's now completely white, and you have this surface. If I turn it to black, you can see you have no reflection. So it's really important. And if you select a specific color, let's go to maybe something like this, you can see the reflections are kind of green here. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the, let me just change this color to white. Now, here you have this to control the brightness. Basically, it's exactly if you go ahead and darken your color here, and that's why you can basically use this parameter here if you're just going to a grayscale value here, or use this parameter, or use the colors really simply. Now, you can define the texture basically to create some reflective surface. If I go ahead and again, I'm just going to use this texture here, and Now you can see how it affects where the, let me go ahead and increase the exposure here, and okay, you can see where the pixels are brighter, you can see you have a much more reflective surface, and where the pixels are darker, there is no reflection. So now you can use whatever texture. Maybe if you use a simple texture, it would be much more obvious. If I use a checkerboard here, you can see how the effect is working here. If I just increase this value, the Fresnel IOR, you can see the effect much more obvious. And let's go ahead and add a bit more U and V frequency. Okay, now you can very obviously see the effect here. Where the pixel is white, you have this reflection, and where the pixel is dark, you have no reflection. So let's go ahead and talk about, let me just clear this here and continue here. Now, hey folks, welcome to the course. My name is Kamel Khezri. I'm a 3D motion graphic designer. I've been doing 3D motion graphic design for almost 4 years, and it's a great pleasure for me to share my experience with you. So please join me in this course where I'm going to teach you my workflow for creating stunning 3D motion graphic designs in Cinema 4D and After Effects. In this course, we're going to be taking one of my 3D motion designs called Box Studio and show you the complete process for creating this motion design, from start to finish. So before anything, let's watch the 3D motion design that we're going to be creating in this course. So let's get started. The Fresnel IOR basically is a natural effect that you're possibly are familiar with. If you're a Cinema 4D user, we have this Fresnel shader that we use it almost everywhere here. And basically you control this effect here by a value. This value, you can find it and it's different from different objects. You know, for example, for something like Chrome, it's something like 12, I think. And for wood, I think something like 3, 4. Now, based on what you are trying to create, you go there and search for that surface's index of refraction in Google, and you simply put this value here. Now, otherwise, you can simply go ahead. If you go to 1, you can see you don't get a lot of reflection. If you go to something like 2, you have a bit more reflection. And as you can see, here where the object is facing you and basically facing the camera, it's much more reflective, and as the surface facing away from you, you can see in these edges it's less reflective. Now the more you add this value here, the more the effects gets kind of powerful. So let's go ahead and I think something like 3 for the moment. Or let's go to something, maybe a chromey look here. Let's go to 12, something like this, as you can see. Now, some different parameters here that I think we're not going to have time to talk about them. The next thing is this, let me talk about this specular layer parameters. You can see the Fresnel here is basically enabled. If I disable that, you can see you have exactly the same parameters as you had in your specular, in your diffuse layer transparency. And right now you have specular layer transparency. And if I enable Fresnel, you see the specular layer transparencies options are basically replaced with these Fresnel options, and you control the layer transparency using Fresnel or using what we learned in the diffuse layer transparency. Now let's go ahead and enable use Fresnel. But generally speaking, when you want to go realistically and create realistic renders, you need to have use Fresnel option turned on. Now you have the reflection glossiness here. It's the same option as the blurriness inside the Cinema 4D reflection channel. And if I go ahead and reduce this value here, you can see I'm going to get a much more blurry surface here, and I can again define a texture. Now this is one of the very, very important points that makes V-Ray to be very powerful, that you have a texture map for controlling your reflection glassiness. In Cinema 4D, you are just have this value and you can't use a texture to define the reflection glassiness. Now, in Cinema 4D, we are used to stack materials to get this effect, but here you can simply use a texture. Let me go ahead and use this texture again, and hopefully we're waiting to see the update here. Now you can see it's really hard to see the update here. Let me go ahead and you can see the update here. Let me open the window again. Hopefully this time we can see the preview here. I'm running a lot of programs and I have to, sorry, so the preview is sorta giving us a hard time. Look at this. Now you can simply use this texture to define where you want your surface to be blurry and where you want to be not blurry. So this is a very, very powerful option here. You have this link highlight glassiness. That means that whatever the parameter for reflection glassiness is, this highlight here, which is the highlight glassiness, is linked to this parameter. If I disable this parameter here, now you can define the highlight here. If I go to if I increase this value here, you can see now it's going to be very hard. You can see this preview getting updated really quicker. You can see the highlight here up there is much more less, and if I go ahead and decrease the value, we're going to have a much more stronger highlights. You can see the preview is really giving us a hard time. Let me go ahead and make this thing bigger. I think it should be a bit bigger here. Just the huge isn't really that huge. Anyways, now that's about the reflection glassiness and the highlight glassiness. Let me just link them back again. Now you have this mix strength. Now the mix strength is 1. Basically it means the reflection glassiness is using this texture to define where the surface is going to be blurry and where it's not. Now it's basically again the same concept of grayscale images, where the pixels are getting brighter, the surface is getting more blurry, and where the texture is getting more darker, or where the pixel is getting more darker, the surface it's going to be not that blurry. Now the mix strength here says 1. Basically it means the reflection glassiness is using only this texture and not this value. If I go to something like 0.5, now it means that the reflection glassiness parameter uses 50% of this texture and 50% of this value. If I go to something like 0.2, it means 20% of this texture and 80% of this value. Now you can control and do whatever you want to finally get the job done and create something great. Now you have this glassiness subdivision, which is glassiness subdivs here. Subdivs is short for subdivision. Basically, if you want to have a more high quality surface, you go and increase this value. But as a rule of thumb, when you want to it's kind of a bit weird to go ahead and really increase this value crazy, for example to 24. What we do, we just keep this value as low as we can, sometimes to 16, and when the time comes to render in the V-Ray bridge here, let me go to the DMC sampler. You can go ahead and simply here you have this global subdiv multiplier. If you go for example to 2, it's gonna multiply all the subdivision parameters twice, so you are gonna get 16 instead of 8. So that's how you basically increase the values globally, instead of going ahead and increase the parameters for each material or for each setting, which gives you a really long time renders. Now let's go ahead and talk about we have some expert setting here, which is, I think it's really kind of beyond the grasp of this tutorial, and I think it would be better if we talk about them in other tutorials. Let's go ahead and talk about this specular layer anisotropy. Let me go ahead and see what we can do here. Now, so anisotropy, let me just increase this value and see what it does. You can see very quickly the effect of this value here. Basically, you use this value to get sort of a polished metal-y look, and you have this amount. You can go to negative values and you can rotate your anisotropy really basically, and you can define a texture for where your surface it's gonna get this effect, and we're not basically a grayscale texture again, even though you can use other textures, but for these matters we always use grayscale textures. Now the specular layers are the same thing, and as I explained in these diffuse layers, you use them together to achieve some much high quality materials. Okay, now let me go to this layer and zero out the anisotropy and zero out the anisotropy rotation. The next thing we're going to be talking about is the luminosity layer, which is, I think it's going to be really simple. Let me just, you have this luminosity layer, you can use a texture, and let me just go ahead and again use this checkerboard. It's really simple and really quite like what we have inside Cinema 4D, and hopefully if we see the update here, you can see the same concept, you know, the same it's, I think it's really simple, and we are used to luminance layer inside Cinema 4D, and it's exactly the same thing. And you have here you can basically define the transparency of this layer and how powerful it's going to be using the same luminosity layer transparency that we had before here. Now we got bump here. You can see one of Vray's problem is this updates. Let me go ahead and change this preview to low and see. Hopefully we're gonna have a better preview here. Now the bump is a bump, you know. Let me go ahead. I'm just going to turn off specular layer to really see the effect of the bump. You go ahead and define a texture or simply use one of Cinema 4D native shaders. Let's go ahead and just use a noise. I'm just going to change this noise to a bit more complicated shader, and you have here the option to increase the amount and the strength of the bump, and really there's nothing more into it. Now you got a material weight. It's the same as alpha inside the Cinema 4D's material. So if you go here and let's go here and use another something like tiles. I'm gonna go to here and change this value to this, and now this is the effect that you're gonna get. It's a very simple thing. You got this. If you go back to alpha, you got these. If you want to invert, you invert. You got a mixed strength, which is really obvious. And that's about the material weight. And let's go ahead and talk about these. Let me turn off the bump. Talk about the refraction layer, which we're using it to create glass look materials. Now, let me go to my specular here. I'm just going to my just a little bit, and I'm gonna clear here, just so we are gonna have a quicker render. Now we have this simple. Let me change the amount of Fresnel maybe to something like 3. Now, in order to use a refraction, you have to disable the diffuse layer, otherwise you're not going to get any refraction. Let's go ahead and enable the refraction. You can see the preview up here, but a bit hard to see the result. Unfortunately, I'm not sure why, but it's hard to see the result here. Come on, there we go. Now you have this refraction. Basically, by enabling it and having specular, you have a very nice glassy material or glass material inside Vray. Now simply you can, if you want to have a colored glass, you can use this color, even though you have a better option to get this kind of colored glass look. You have this volume fog parameters, which is really powerful and gives you whatever you want. But I think you can use these colors also here to get some nice colored look, glasses material inside V-Ray. Now you can simply define a texture. That's a very, very simple concept, I think. And but just let's go ahead and add it. You can see, let's go 5, 5, and you can see how basically here in this preview it works. There we go. If you have a diffuse layer, you can see it. Now in the refraction, you can see the effect of your checkerboard here. And the mixed strength is exactly the same concept. Now you have the index of refraction here, which is a standard value, and based on what you are trying to recreate, you are going to need the different values. So for water it's different, for glass, for different glass it's different. So you have to find this exact number. And now this effect shadow is kind of it's turned on by default, which is really important when you have shadows and a light hitting a transparent object. The shadow will be sort of transparent if this value is on. You have this effect channels. You got the color and alpha, which is a great choice here, great choice here, because if it's just color only and you're trying to render out some multipass and passes out of Cinema 4D, the transparent object wouldn't be completely white inside your alpha channel, but if you just turn it to color only, it would be completely white in your alpha channel. It's really depends on what you're trying to achieve here. Let's go ahead and see if there is an important option. You got this enable volume here, and as you can see, this preview is really just doing nothing here. Now you got this volume color, and if you go ahead and change it to a color of your choice, you can see it's gives you this look here. And if I go ahead and increase the amount, it's gonna have more intensity here. You have this SSS on for subsurface scattering, which is when you are trying to create subsurface scattering, there is a specific material, I think it's called very fast SS2 material, which is more suited for creating subsurface scattering, and it's much more quicker than if you are trying to recreate it using this refraction channel or using this down here, this SSS layer that you have. Is just gonna take forever render wise. And there we go, you got the glassiness here. If you want to create let's go ahead and see. I'm gonna go ahead and create this sort of look, this sort of glassy look here. Now it's really simple, and you have the ability even to again define a texture. Let's go ahead and see what we can do here. I'm just going to use a simple texture here and hopefully see the effect. Now it's really hard to see. Let me just go ahead and open up a preview. I'm not sure how. It's really hard to work when you are having so much programs working, but I'm hoping to see something here. I mean, come on, let's go ahead and just apply this material to these spheres and render it and see what. I think it's gonna take forever, but let's see if it's okay. Why this spheres? Sorry, this scene. Let's go ahead and add it to the spheres and render it again and see what we're gonna have in our render. Now it's gonna be very long because we have this glossy refraction here, which is really gonna take forever. But let's go ahead and wait until the render is finished, and hopefully we have something for ourselves after the render is finished. Okay, unfortunately the system is bugging me down and it's really impossible. I'm not sure what's going on with my system, but it's just hard to see the result here. So let's go ahead and just create a simple material. I'm just going to create a simple Vray material just really quickly. Go ahead and create something here. I'm just going and create a really dark color here. I'm going to enable the specular and just using the same texture really for the heck of it. And let's go ahead and enable the Fresnel with something like 10 or maybe 6. Using the same texture for the reflection glassiness and reducing the amount here. We can possibly go ahead and change this color something like this, and again using the same texture, let's go ahead and use it in our bump channel, enable the bump, and let's go to something like maybe 2 centimeters, and I think what we can do is to reduce this value to see more of the colors in our diffuse layer. And here I'm going ahead and just add a bit more of boom. Let's go ahead to something like 0.25 maybe, and let's see. Go ahead and mix the things a bit, and there you go. Let's go ahead and apply this material, and this time I'm gonna wait for the render and see what we're gonna get finally. Let me just go ahead and quickly define a smaller output and render the thing and see what we're gonna have. Now there we go, you can see we have this nice looking material. Let's go ahead and create some other material really quickly and apply to our other stuff. Let me go ahead and create a simple very advanced material. This time we're gonna just go to some nice shiny materials inside Cinema 4D, what we're used to. And now let's go ahead, I'm gonna just enable the specular here, maybe go to something like 2. I think really something like even this is enough, and just a bit of glossiness, maybe 9.7. And let's see, maybe it wouldn't be bad if we add a noise here, but let me increase the global scale here to something like 300% and the effect to something really low. We just want to introduce a bit of irregularity to our surface, and for this material I think I'm gonna reduce the effect of the bump maybe to something like 0.5 and see the specular, and I'm going to actually just go ahead reduce this value here to something like this, and pick the Fresnel, I'm going to something like 1.6, maybe actually go ahead and increase this value. Okay, and let's go ahead and apply maybe this one here or here. Let's see, let's apply this one maybe to here. Let's go ahead and create some really quick glass. So let's go ahead and enable the refraction, enable the specular layer, and just really by doing that you have a nice glassy material. Let's go ahead and apply that to some other things, maybe like this. Let's go ahead and create some frosty glass here really quickly. Go to your specular and a bit more glassy, refraction, the same thing here with the glassiness. And let's go ahead and use a simple let's go ahead and really simple texture board, checkerboard here. Go to something like 5 and 5. Now it's getting a bit more complicated and hard to see the result. And let's go ahead and create some maybe a simple chrome material. Or let's go ahead and create maybe a gold material really simply. Let me go ahead and define diffuse color. Now you really need to see the reference image before you want to go ahead and create some material here, but let's go ahead and maybe use this color here, very bright color for an element. Let's go to something like maybe 8, and let's go to something like here. And for the noise, I'm going to, for the bump, I'm going to have a simple noise with the global scale of maybe 500%, and a very small effect, maybe like 0.2. There you go, you have a simple gold material for yourself. Let's go ahead and apply this here, and let's just go ahead and simply create another chrome material just so we have something. Now when you are trying to create metals, you basically use a really dark texture, and let's go ahead and enable specular. Let's go to something like maybe 25. Again, you need bump for every surface because there's no surface that's perfectly straight. There's some irregularity going on everywhere. So let's go to something like 0.2 and the global scale. Now you really need to go ahead and see how this global scale works on each of your materials, but just we're trying to quickly do something and see how the effects basically works. And some other color here, I'm just going to maybe use a nice color like this one, and I'm just going to increase the Fresnel, and now we are ready to have a final render and see how it's going to work. I'm just going to 960 540, and when the render is finished, I'll be back with you to see the result of our materials. Okay guys, so as you can see, the render is basically finished, and you know, not really nice materials, but really quick and dirty materials that we created here. And you can see here is our gold, here is this purple, the different glasses, the chrome back here. So as you can see, especially look at this material that we created first. You can see how complex the surface is, and I believe creating something like this inside Cinema 4D isn't really easy, and you have to stack up a lot of materials to get finally something like that. So hopefully it was a useful tutorial. I know it was really quick and dirty, but I think it was a good introductory to the guys who want to get started and use Vray as their render engine. And hopefully we can create more advanced tutorials in the upcoming weeks. And so thank you for watching, and see you next time. Hey folks, welcome to the course. My name is Kamel Khezri. I'm a 3D motion graphic designer. I've been doing 3D motion graphic design for almost 4 years, and it's a great pleasure for me to share my experience with you. So please join me in this course where I'm going to teach you my workflow for creating stunning 3D motion graphic designs in Cinema 4D and After Effects. In this course, we're going to be taking one of my 3D motion designs called Box Studio and show you the complete process for creating this motion design from start to finish. So before anything, let's watch the 3D motion design that we're going to be creating in this course. So let's get started.